Welcome to this episode of the Smart Leaders Sell podcast. I'm Jessica Lorimer, sales coach and leadership expert, and I am really excited to dig down into today's episode. So today we are welcoming the lovely Shoshana Chaim to the podcast. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm grateful to be here.
I'm so excited that you're here, and we've literally just had a good old catch up because I've known you, or I've been in the online space with you for what, 3 years.
I think it's about 3 years. Yeah. We met through Tara Newman.
Yes, we did. Yeah. Tara Newman, the angel that is Tara Newman. And you have participated in a bunch of my communities. You've joined a bunch of programs. In fact, you aced a round of cash creation about 18 months ago. You literally took it by storm, took so much action. I've never seen anyone quite as driven and ambitious as you when there are prizes to be had.
Yeah, I driven by the carrot. I'm definitely driven by the
100%. So tell everybody what you do, because you work in a really, really interesting niche. And I know that some things have changed for you, certainly over the last 18, 24 months as well, because of things that have been going on in other external factors.
So basically what I do is I help people with a full range of health conditions to access the tools that they need to help create improved quality of life. So that might mean, helping people with diabetes and actually seeing them come off of medication. People with Parkinson's disease begin to walk without their walkers again. People with skin conditions, autoimmune diseases. I concentrate mainly on plant-based nutrition, but how I've changed lately is that I've really taken it into a more holistic point of view, because although my diet was really good, my exercise was really good, I experienced adrenal fatigue about a year and a half ago. And I really understood more that although I knew it already, because I'd gone through it, I knew that it was much more than what we eat and how we meditate and, the way that we move. So I really incorporated nutrition, movement, sleep, community, mindset, and supplementation, and have seen amazing results with my clients lately. And it's just been wonderful. So sometimes we need to go through things to get where we're supposed to be.
100%. It's so funny because I was speaking at the Upreneur Summit a few weeks ago, and Jada Selner was one of the keynotes, and she said, everything happens to me for a reason. There is a purpose for everything that happens. And I was like, oh, that's so powerful. And it's exactly what you've just said. Sometimes we do have to live it in order to understand it and help other people through it. So I think that's awesome. So you have been working in the health and wellness industry for an awful long time. And the thing that I really love about your business and admire about your business is that traditionally the health and wellness scene hasn't always been all fun and games to be in. And I've seen you go through different iterations of your business, and you've changed niches a few times. We've worked on messaging and things like that. But you've persevered, and you've gotten to this point where actually you really are helping the people that you're meant to help. And I just think that's phenomenal.
Thank you. Yeah. I think the key is that I want to help people. Mm-hmm. I want to help people. And what I've learned is that I need to be helping people who want help. I can't go ahead and help people who I know need help but aren't ready for it. And through my messaging, I need to attract them to understand that they can use help and that change is not a big, scary monster, and it doesn't have to be everything overnight. So, despite the fact that I've had times in my business where I haven't been making as much momentum as I've wanted to, it's just about saying, okay, so what am I doing wrong? Or what's my messaging? Or where's my mindset at? Or how am I not listening to my audience? And how do I just bring it forward? And, I was a teacher for over 15 years. After my husband had some serious health issues himself, I really understood that life is short and that I wanted to be around with the family more. And I'd given in my time, in teaching a 24/7 job, and I'm leaving that up to other people now, some younger teachers. And I want to be here for my family, but I want to be here for the masses as well. So for me to be able to do that, I need to evolve, because if I would have stayed stuck where I was, I'd probably be back teaching now, but miserably teaching, not happily teaching like I was before.
And there's a big difference between doing things that you're passionate about and doing things just because.
Exactly.
I love that. So tell us, what is your big question for the podcast today? Because you've got a really juicy one. I'm very excited about this.
Okay. So my question today is, we were chatting before and I was saying how I've had some big issues come up in my family life and I really need to be present for my family. And because I have different revenue streams, some are here in Canada in person, I dedicate a lot to my family and I have a huge online business between, the Plant Trainers podcast and my Facebook groups and all of that. But I really haven't been giving as much nurture to my Facebook groups lately. So my question is, how do I re-illuminate that Facebook group and really make sure that I'm priming the listeners to be active participants, and when I'm ready to sell to them, that they have trust in me and that they have that they're ready to buy from me, because before that's not something that I necessarily had. And basically I've slightly changed my focus as well. So how do I bring that with me and ask the people who are not ready for that change, to kind of take a step back, and the people who are to come along with me? Kind of a multi-leveled question.
That's fine. We like that. Complex is good. So I think the first thing is to let your audience know what's been going on. Not necessarily the family stuff or, all of the behind the scenes, because there are some bits that you may want to share and that you may not want to share. Some bits will have contributed for the reasons that you have shifted focus slightly. And so those might be bits that actually you do want to share to let people know what kind of journey that you've been on to get to this point and why they should continue to follow you, like what's going to be relevant to them. So I think you need to, go into your groups and prep them for the fact that you are going to make an announcement. If you just go in and you make it, the chances are a lot of people won't see it, because if you haven't been present in there for a little while, engagement will have dipped. People won't necessarily have the notifications on. So you want to give them a few days notice and say, hey, look, on Monday, I'm going to come in at this time. I'm going to be talking about some of the things that have been changing up for me and what that means for this group and this community and what we're going to be doing to serve you better moving forward. Because it's all, ultimately it's about them. It's about what experience they're going to get by being there. So that's the first thing. Then I go in, you make your announcement, and I think you have to manage their expectations and really set those expectations. Look, this is what I am committing to as being part of this Facebook group. I'm happy to come in here. I'm happy to, answer questions about episodes of the podcast you might have listened to, for example. But I'm not going to be the main driver behind conversation. So if you have a question about health, if you have a question about wellness or mindset or any of the topics that are coming up for you, you can ask. But I'm not going to come in here and set up a thread on a Wednesday that says, hey, Wellness Wednesday, drop your question, because that's not the kind of discussion I want to have. Really set expectations on what you want from the space. What do you want them to do? And tell them how you want them to show up. Because a lot of the time, people, when we have groups that start to kind of dissipate in terms of engagement and stuff, it's because people don't know what's expected of them and they don't know what they're allowed to do. A lot of us have this weird thing around permission. We want to be told, hey, come in here, start a conversation. And then we're fine about doing it. But until somebody says it's okay, we actually don't start. Do you see what I mean?
I do. And I do have that video at the top of the announcements. Yeah. But what I've realized from joining certain groups lately and kind of changing the groups that I'm in is we don't all have time to watch them or read, so, even though I've put in all that effort to put it up there and I've, followed a plan, it doesn't mean that they're looking at it. Right. So then I've got to put those little tidbits in that are going to come up on their news feeds.
Exactly. You want to have it in your description. You want to, write down the rules or the expectations of the community in the pinned post and be tagging people when they're joining. That's another great way to make sure that they do see it. We tag everyone who comes into my free community in the pinned post just so that we can welcome them properly and so they can get a real feel. This is what the community is about. And for the people who don't want to watch the video, the rules are all there. It's all written down. If you're not a watcher, you can read it and off you go. I think setting those expectations does help them, but also using your joining question on your Facebook group and saying to people, hey, look, I'm not as present on Facebook as I used to be. And, maybe for the foreseeable, I'm not going to be as present, but where I am going to be present is on my podcast or on my email list. So if you want to join that and you want to, get weekly tips or weekly recipes or, just weekly health and well-being bulletins, come join. Put your email address in here and we'll add you to the list. And then every week we're going to send you an email on a Wednesday, because social media can be overwhelming for people.
It can be. And I love that because I am putting, my most effort into the podcast. And we do, podcast roundups and let people know what's going on throughout the month in our newsletter. So I never thought of using that as a tool. I've always used the newsletter as a tool to get people into my group, but I've never thought of doing the opposite.
Yeah. So start doing the opposite and turn that around for your group and just say, hey, look, I'm not spending as much time on social media. Maybe it doesn't matter why. But the fact is, I'm spending more time over on my newsletter, over on the podcast.
In Instagram. Yeah,
exactly. I did it recently with my community, and I just said, look, I'm getting tired of Facebook. I don't necessarily want to open up my newsfeed every day. And it bothers me that we can't have some of the level of conversations that I used to. So I'm only going to use it for discussions around the podcast, and I'm only going to use my group for pop-up challenges. But aside from that, the best place to come and learn is my email list. That's where I'm going to be communicating with you properly. And people like that because, again, it's this expectation. Oh, okay, fine. I now know where you're going to be. You're not running off. You're just moving somewhere slightly different. And that makes it easier for them. So I think definitely use that. Definitely use those joining questions to ask people straight away. Do you want to sign up for our newsletter list? You'll get an email every whatever day. We'll let you know about what's going on in our world. And you'll find that your email list starts to grow then a lot bigger. And they're people who genuinely are active and engaged because they want to hear more from you in a personal way. They want you in their inbox versus when they're scrolling on social and slightly bored.
And Facebook really scares me lately because my actual page, so the Plant Trainers page, has actually been shut down so many times in the last couple of months, like to the point where we needed to hire somebody to manage it and make sure that didn't happen anymore because we weren't breaking any rules. I don't know what their problem was, but I think people hear about it, but they don't realize that at any time, boom, it could be gone. But your mailing list is yours no matter what.
Exactly. You've got to build your own house on your foundations. And I think that's the thing, the health and wellness space and the sales space on Facebook right now are hard to be in because, there's been a lot going on with data breaches and integrity issues and advertising. And so, Facebook is taking a really intolerant view of some of the industries that people work in. And so it does mean, pages are getting shut down, groups are getting shut down for really, really minor things, if nothing, right? Some people aren't doing anything like you, not doing anything, but for whatever reason, your page has come up flagged on a search and that's it. You're the person to go that day. So, rather than be reliant on that platform, perhaps move to a slightly different model and actually inform your people and just be like, hey, look, because of these things, we're moving so that you can keep in touch with us in a better way for you and a better way for us. We know we're always going to be able to contact you with the best information.
So that's so interesting because when I thought of the question that I wanted to ask you today, I really wanted to, illuminate that Facebook group again. But I had a lot of fear behind that because I'm like, okay, I'm kind of in a good momentum now and I'm just getting everything done that I need to do. And how am I going to put all this energy and effort into the Facebook group and, make everything happen still? So, it sounds like we've kind of changed focus here, like use the Facebook group as a means to bring it to everything else that you're really happy with. As I approach 10,000 followers on Instagram, I know my Instagram is going to change a lot in the next month. Like once I have that 10,000, everything changes. So it's not 3 years ago anymore when we first started working together where Facebook was the place to be. Yeah, that's so interesting how that took a different turn.
And I think the thing for you is if you've got to a space of momentum where you're getting everything else done, why add more to the plate? Why not just double down on what's working? Okay, great.
Right.
The podcast is working. It's driving traffic. The newsletter is working. It's driving traffic. It's driving sales. Instagram is working and it's going to continue to work. Why add something into that you're not massively engaged with anyway? Why not use it to drive to other places where you're already acing it in terms of content creation, in terms of managing that momentum, in terms of being able to sell to that audience?
Right. Makes complete sense. It seems like people want that Facebook group because I don't advertise it anywhere really. Mm-hmm. And I'm getting, anywhere between 10 and 20 new people a week just because it's named well, right? Just because people are searching it or people are mentioning it. And that's the other thing. People are mentioning it in other groups, which means that they must be getting something out of it. You know, it's not like I'm completely silent. I have scheduled posts. I put thought into them. I go in there and I comment when people have written things. I just don't find that it's bringing me up. So I guess I need to be illuminated more than they do. But it seems like people want it, but maybe they want it because they don't know what else is available.
And this is the key thing. Your job as a leader is about leading from the front and looking at what lights me up, because ultimately I'm going to be more committed to that. I'm going to be more passionate about it, and I'm going to do more with it. If you're not lit up by the idea of a Facebook group per se, you can have it there rolling in the background, but put it in your pin post. Hey, look, we're much more active on Instagram. Or if you want to know about this, join our newsletter. If you're somebody who is a listener rather than a watcher, listen to our podcast. Here are the links, and off you go, and use that group, you know, and the fact that people are searching for it, that they're landing there from other communities, use it to drive them to places that you actually enjoy being. And then that way you're going to find that, you know, yes, the group grows and that's great. And people might start conversations, people might do that kind of thing. But more importantly, they're going to be driven across to platforms that you're actually active on, and they're going to become active buyers that way because they're finding content that is interesting, they're keeping on board with it, and they're binging it, and then they're wanting to buy, rather than being sucked into a Facebook group where some of the posts are getting seen, some of them aren't, algorithms are at play, and you could get shut down any minute.
Right. And then I think what I love the most about the Facebook group is going live. I just like once the live button's pressed, like I just, you know, it's like I've got a new fancy pair of shoes on. But I also really enjoy just chatting with people and having like a 15-minute chat with people. And although I said, you know, 10 to 20 people new in the group every week, that's a lot of people, but not everybody's going to take me up on that. But when I do talk to them, they'll be more likely to join that newsletter or join me on Instagram or tell 3 other people, hey, you know, her services have changed. It doesn't quite fit with what I want anymore, but this really fits for you. And then I'm creating that word of mouth like I have here in person, but creating that more on Facebook again.
Yeah, exactly. It really is just about telling people what you want them to do. You know, maybe your commitment to them is, look, I'm going to come in here once or twice a month and I'm going to do a live stream. And that's my commitment to you. I'm going to come in. So if you are somebody who likes Facebook, you know, every second Wednesday of the month and every fourth Wednesday of the month, I'm going to come in here, I'm going to do a live stream on a topic of my choice, and you guys can show up and you can ask questions, and that's great. The rest of the time, the place that I'm going to be most active on is Instagram or the newsletter or the podcast. So if you've got questions in between those live sessions, or you just want to come in and find out more about what I'm doing or what we're up to that particular week, that's where you can find us, and that's where we're going to be able to communicate with you much more frequently. Because there's no reason that you couldn't put a thing in your newsletter saying, hey, if you want to book a call because you're a newsletter subscriber, here's your link. There's no reason you couldn't be doing that with all of your newsletter subscribers. And actually, they get access to the call once they join the newsletter versus the group, because that's them actually really joining your community. They're giving over their email address rather than just joining a community on Facebook.
So then you get perks by joining the real community that you're not necessarily going to get here. Yeah, I've been filtering a lot of the posts, you know, my page posts or my personal posts into that group. But, you know, if you really want to have the perks, if you really want to know what's going on, if you really want to start taking action and making change, this is where it's going to be, and get people excited for that.
Yeah. You know, you're rewarding the people who are most likely to change.
Okay. So let's say people aren't really listening right now. So, you know, if there's 1,500 people in there and they're not really listening, how am I going to get them to listen to bump over? What are some of those key things that I can do?
So some of the things that you want to be doing are the basics. You want to change the header photos and like the cover graphics to say, hey, look, we're moving to Instagram, we're moving to the newsletter, and contain links within that photo so that people are seeing that on their newsfeed. Then you want to announce, like we were talking about earlier, announce a live stream that you're doing, give them a few days to prepare for it, to put it in their diary, that kind of thing. And again, that's then going to go in their newsfeed. So you could play the algorithm a little bit with that, saying, you know, I'm going to make an exciting announcement. I'm going to be going live at this time on this day. Who's going to be there? And of course, every time somebody comments, oh, I can't make it, or I can make it, or whatever, that's pushing you up the Facebook algorithm. It gives more people the opportunity to see it in their newsfeed. You know, so you can also do that. And then again, I would be changing the description of the book group and saying, look, you know, we're here. This is what the group is for. If you want to follow us on other platforms, we also have an awesome podcast. Here's the link. And we're over on Instagram. Here's the link. And then as your joining question, you have, hey, do you want to join our newsletter list? That's where you get access to member perks, like a free call. And you can be grabbing email list subscribers as well. That would be what I'd be doing, because it's not about doing one thing. It's about consistent, sustained actions for maybe 2 to 3 weeks that help move people over. And then when you are answering questions, what you could do is you could say, hey, look, this week, instead of answering in Facebook Live, I'm going to answer it on Instagram Live. If you want to know the answer to this question, come over to Instagram this time, this date. So effectively, you're retraining your audience and you're saying, hey, look, I want to give you this information, but the platform that I want to give it to you on has changed. So we're all going to go over here, and that's where you can follow me, and that's you can still learn, you can still get all the same great stuff. It's just it's not going to be on Facebook.
Right. Yeah. I like that. That's really good. Yeah, that helps, because then I don't need to add so much more onto my plate. And I think that you and I are not the only people who are kind of getting a little bit fed up with Facebook. Just people don't know where else to go. And because Instagram is so visual and the comments are so short, but when you do, I have my IGTV, I have the ability to go live. I could do everything that I was doing in Facebook on Instagram, and I'm already doing a lot of it instead of putting so much more on the plate. Because let's face it, Instagram is the place to be right now. A lot more than Facebook for a lot of people. Well, not for my mom, but for everybody else.
People keep telling me this, and I'm like, I've literally just worked out how to do Instagram stories, and I'm doing that, and you know what? It's good fun. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun. Okay, good. So I have a lot to work with here. So I'm going back, I'm redoing my video, I'm changing my questions, and I'm just going to drive people. I'm going to have instead of my intent just being to inform or ask a question or what have you, my intent is going to be to drive them to get the answers where I want them to have the answers. And if that's not good for them, that's okay too. Yeah. That's okay too. They'll come when they're ready, or not everybody's ready.
Exactly. And those might not be your people.
Right.
And that's the way sometimes you can't, like you were saying earlier, you can't help everyone. You can only help the ones who want to be helped. If they want to be helped, they can, get help just as easily over on Instagram from you, or just as easily from your newsletter list. That's the bit at which point they have to take some responsibility.
And when I'm asked to do online summits, or when I'm asked to do live television here, or, even speaking corporately here, they're asking, what is my Instagram like? What is my newsletter like? Like that, those are the things that they're asking for. So that's just going to help me get my message out to other people. It's funny because I was saying to somebody this morning that, if I won the lottery, the only thing that would change is that, my price tag would be $0 on everything, right? Like I'd still be putting all that content out there. I'd still be wanting to help people, just like I wouldn't have to charge them. So that's my ultimate goal. My ultimate goal is just to be able to give people as much information that has actionable tips that talks to them so that they could start making the changes, because we've just all become so used to living with our illnesses, right? Mm-hmm. Like, or just saying like, I'm exhausted, but that's okay. That's just the way it is. I'm going to drink 5 cups of coffee to get through the day. Or it's all right that my fingers don't work to do up my buttons. I'll just start buying shirts with no buttons. So we make this normal, but it doesn't have to be. We could all feel better again. And that's really what I want to do, is just let as many people know. But when Facebook's not lighting me up, I don't even know that I would achieve the goal. Exactly. Going back in there.
And that's the thing, you've always got to do it from a place that works for you, because your audience can find you anywhere. People are on every single platform. There's no need for you to take up something that you don't enjoy just so they can find you, And I think as well, I completely get your bit about the lottery. Like if I won the lottery, I'd love to be like, yeah, no charge. Yeah. But the other thing I would say is that when people invest, they implement. Don't take that power away from them.
Right.
Because it's not always about the information. Sometimes it's the fact that they've put their stake in the ground and said, this is the point at which it stops for me. And sometimes they do have to make that investment for it to become worth it for them. So if you win the lottery, give it to a great cause, give it to a hospital, do the thing.
Charge it anyway. Yeah. No, I totally see that. I have an event this coming weekend, and I went to the event last year, and then I joined their program. So I got a free ticket to the event this year. And last year I bought the ticket. There was no way I wasn't showing up. And this year I'm kind of like, well, I'm not going to be with my family the next weekend, so maybe I just won't go. I haven't put any value on it, so I'm kind of flippy floppy with it. So I totally get that.
Exactly. Well, I'm glad that that's helped. And it's been a pleasure to see you today. I love spending time with you. So where can people find you? If people are out there living with diseases, like you say, that actually shouldn't be affecting them every day and that they can fix through the power of plant-based nutrition and mindset work and all the amazing things that you do, where can they find you?
So if you go to planttrainers.com, you're able to get a direct link to the Plant Trainers podcast. You're able to join our newsletter there as well. You're able to see our Instagram and link straight through our Instagram. So that is a great place to go because you kind of got it all there. If you're an Instagrammer, at Plant Trainers is a great place to find us, on Twitter as well. And my Facebook group, if you do want to join to see how I decide to take action and change things around in there, is Healthy Plant-Based Families. And although we are plant-based, we are really great at meeting people where they are and have an understanding that not everybody's going to be 100% plant-based, but that we have a good understanding that fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, grains, legumes really do help to improve our quality of life. So I'd love to see people there, and let me know that you found me through this podcast because it'll be fun. We'll have something to talk about.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today, my love. I really appreciate it. And as always, if you are interested in learning more about plant-based nutrition, if you are interested in healing yourself from diseases that you shouldn't be experiencing at this time in life, make sure that you do head over and find Shoshana. Her and her husband Adam, they do have the amazing podcast, the Plant Trainers podcast. Their Instagram is pretty gorgeous, I do have to say, because obviously have stalked it. And make sure that you head over to the Facebook group, as yet to be decided as well. I'll see you in the next episode. Have a wonderful weekend.